Why does every deep experience of love, loss, or awakening begin with pain? It is one of the oldest questions in the history of human reflection. We seek peace, stability, and wholeness, yet the process of reaching them almost always involves rupture, confusion, and emotional disarray. Jalal-ud-Din Rumi, the 13th century Sufi philosopher, faced this paradox directly. He wrote, "You have to keep breaking your heart until it opens." At first, this seems counterintuitive. How can breaking lead to opening? How can pain become the gateway to wisdom? Emotional breaking is not a failure of love or faith, but a process of ego dissolution and inner reorganization, a necessary restructuring of the self. Modern psychology and neuroscience point toward a similar truth. Adversity can trigger profound reconfiguration of the brain, personality, and meaning systems. What feels like breaking is often the beginning of higher integration. In contemporary culture, we are trained to treat pain as pathology. The dominant ideal of mental health is continuous comfort, a life free of disturbance. Feeling good is equated with being well, yet this belief quietly generates the opposite effect. The more we avoid unpleasant emotions, the more those emotions govern us unconsciously. Emotional avoidance is amplified by the structure of modern life. Instant gratification, digital distraction, and continuous performance pressure. When attention is fragmented, the nervous system has no time to metabolize pain. Research confirms this pattern. Emotional suppression increases physiological arousal and leads to greater anxiety and depression. Chronic avoidance keeps the brain's threat detector overactivated while reducing calm regulation. The result is hypervigilance, irritability, and emotional fatigue. Rumi warned that when we flee pain, we mistake a teacher for an enemy. What we call suffering is not punishment, but initiation, the burning away of illusion. Rumi was not merely a poet of emotion. He was a jurist, scholar, and philosopher deeply grounded in metaphysical logic. His writings, especially the Masnavi, analyze the structure of consciousness itself. For him, breaking symbolizes the shattering of the ego's rigidity, the collapse of those mental structures built from fear, attachment, and self-concept. These structures are necessary for functioning in the world, but they become prisons when mistaken for the whole of identity. The wound is the place where the light enters you, expresses a psychological truth. The light represents consciousness, freed from defensive walls. Only when the surface cracks can awareness penetrate to deeper layers of being. Emotional collapse is not the death of the soul, but the disintegration of a false identity. It is the moment when our constructed image of who we are fails to hold under the weight of truth. This aligns with Carl Jung's concept of individuation, in which the ego must encounter its limits to make room for the deeper self. Neuroscience explains that when our predictions about reality fail through loss or conflict, the brain experiences error and what feels like chaos is the nervous system reorganizing its model of reality. Pain is a signal of reorganization, the collapse of outdated identity patterns. For Rumi, pain purifies perception. It redirects awareness from the external to the internal, from projection to reflection. Emotions, even unpleasant ones, act as data about one's alignment with values and reality. They are feedback systems, not interruptions. Physical and emotional pain activate overlapping brain regions involved in both feeling and meaning. When the heart breaks, the brain is recalibrating its connection between sensation and interpretation. Heartbreak is not moral failure. It is the nervous system rewiring attachment and value. Structures, Rumi's metaphor of the wound, represents a transitional openness, the moment when familiar identity has dissolved but a new configuration has not yet formed. Research on post-traumatic growth shows that adversity can lead to greater appreciation of life, spiritual depth, and maturity. Trauma, when processed consciously, expands the psyche. After rupture, the brain demonstrates neuroplasticity, the capacity to form new pathways. Emotional regulation and empathy can strengthen following recovery. Light enters through the wound can be read literally. Breaking opens new cognitive and emotional connections that were impossible within the old. Structure, don't run from your pain, run into it. It's your teacher. This principle echoes modern therapies that define mental health as psychological flexibility, the ability to experience difficult emotions without avoidance. Turning toward discomfort lowers stress activation and engages the body's repair system. When one stops fighting reality, perception widens. The ego loosens its grip, allowing compassion and equanimity to emerge. Every collapse becomes an invitation to expand consciousness beyond form, to realize that what breaks is never the essence, only the shell. The same force that breaks the heart also rebuilds it. The breaker and the healer are one process viewed from different states of awareness. This mirrors the Sufi idea of the unity of being, where all opposites, pain and pleasure, loss and gain, death and birth are expressions of a single unfolding reality. To the ego, breaking appears as destruction. To consciousness, it is creation in motion. When the mind resists impermanence, it fractures. When it accepts impermanence, it reorganizes into coherence. The broken heart is not dysfunction but integration in progress, perceiving more of reality. By letting go of false boundaries, Rumi's teaching can guide emotional growth in practical ways. When pain arises, label it precisely. Naming emotion transforms chaos into information. Replace the question, "Why is this happening to me?" with "What illusion is breaking?" This reframes pain as a messenger, not an enemy. Allow discomfort to exist without suppression. This trains the brain to tolerate uncertainty and restore balance. Reflect on what collapsed, a belief, attachment, or identity story. Writing organizes memory and understanding. Build new meaning systems grounded in truth and humility. Reframing suffering into coherent life stories predicts higher resilience. These practices strengthen the connection between reason and emotion, increasing adaptability, what Rumi described as the heart opening. Heartbreak is not failure. It is a reorganization of consciousness designed to expand the capacity for love. The heart must break not because it is weak, but because it is strong enough to expand. Every fracture in identity opens a new space for truth to enter. The ego interprets this as loss, but it is recalibration, the psyche evolving through tension. Modern science echoes this principle. Systems grow through stress, followed by recovery. Without disruption, there is no evolution, biological, cognitive, or spiritual. The wound is not the opposite of wholeness. It is the path toward it. When the heart breaks, it upgrades its capacity to love, to perceive, and to connect. The crack is the curriculum. The pain is the instrument. The opening is the lesson realized.